Welcome back to Akui Gabriel series, and this is going to be our introductory video to ethical hacking. Let's just go ahead and dive right in. Alright, so let's quickly look at what is on our way. We have a very long way to go. The first we are going to check is definition of hackers, types of hackers, important terminologies, what is penetration testing per se, penetration testing methodologies, categories of penetration tests, types of penetration test, and report testing. Okay, let's just move to the next slide. Alright, so definition of hackers, that's what comes in the first place. In the early 1990s, the word hacker was used to describe a great programmer, someone who was able to build complex logic. Unfortunately, over the word gained negative hype, and the media started referring to a hacker as someone who discover new ways of hacking into a system. Be it a computer or a programmable logic control, someone who is capable of hacking into banks, stealing credit cards, information, etc. And if you look from the little definitions of here, which actually came from a book I read, hackers generally in the world of computer science are not the bad guys that steals passwords, that attack our Wi-Fi, that bring down networks. Hackers specifically are people who find a new way to exploit, to do something with a computer, and to solve it either programmably or logically, in order to create something new that no one else has ever experienced before in the field of computer science. So being an hacker doesn't really mean to be stealing password, to be doing all sort of malicious things out there. And I'll bet, but nowadays the word hackers actually gain a negative hype from the public, and from the news, from the social, and from the community rather. So anywhere we refer to as hacker right now is now people doing malicious things on the internet. So I just want to correct that mindset. So an hacker is not always someone stealing password from banks, hacking into banks accounts, and doing all sort of malicious way. An hacker is specifically in the field of computer science, it's someone who can think in a very very logical way to make a computer system to function, to function in a way that no one else has ever before. And if you want to categorize it now, Bill Gates is an hacker. Mark Zuckerberg is an hacker, and all sort of people that have actually made a greater exploit in the world of technology. All right, let's move to the next slide. So now we have types of hackers. So this is now where we separate the boys from the man and the man from the boys. So let's look at it at first. White hat hacker. This kind of hacker is often referred to as a security professional or security researcher who such hackers are employed by an organization and are permitted to attack an organization to find vulnerability that an attacker might be able to exploit. So when it comes to white hacker specifically, white hackers actually works more or less like a penetration testers, whereby their major goals, or let me say their major targets, is just to try all their best to hack into the an organization's maybe network or applications or website, so that they get to know the vulnerability right before the malicious guys, let me say the bad guys, might really really exploit the vulnerability. And all what they do is just to kick out the bad guys. Now let's talk about the type of hacker too, which is black hats. Black hats hacker, also known as cracker. This kind of hacker is referred to as a bad guy who uses his or her knowledge for negative purpose. They are often referred to as media as hackers. So this is the guys that this is the boys that we are talking about now, because the man is the first and the boys follows. The boys are actually the ones that cause havoc in the world of technology nowadays and create a lot of internet bullies being so malicious on the internet. They are, even if you look at the history, black hat has always been the problem that we are facing in internet technology of a thing ever since 1990s. They've create a lot of things from viruses to malware, from malware to Trojan, from Trojan to bots, malicious content, social engineering, phishing attacks, all sorts of attacks that actually came from them. So let's look at the third one, which I cannot call a boy or a man. I just leave it the way it is. So gray hat hackers. This kind of hacker is an intermediate between a white hat and a black hat hacker. So now gray hat hackers actually works like, okay, I'm a kind of a good, I'm a kind of a bad. Let me just put it this way. When we do color mixture, once you mix a white and a black together, it's going to give you a gray color. So that is why that is where the name is derived from us, and categorize them as a gray hacker, because most of them they usually act as a white hat. The companies employ them to help them to assess their network, to find vulnerabilities, and once they find a vulnerability there, they leave a hole. When they are going, they leave a hole so that later, at a later time, they'll come there to exploit it and steal something from that organization. People really do that a lot. Yeah, people do that a lot. And it also works like probably maybe during the phase of penetration testing, they find some informations that are very sensitive, that are not supposed to be in the public. They just go ahead and take those information after the phase of the penetration testings they perform for the organization. They sell it out on dark web. They sell it out anywhere else, or maybe they are able to grab the username and password of the users or all the customers in that organization. They just do. They are not just this kind of white art that are sincere. So that is what a grey art means. Now I hope you understand the difference between a boy, a boy and a man now. So a boy will always go ahead to cause trouble, and a man is matured enough to always know how to kick out the boys from the internet. So that is what the white arts do. So that's just the difference. So now it's left to you to pick up your art. But the best art I will ever advise you to pick is white art, which is what I am, and it is what I'm doing. People don't love to fly white art because to even become a white hat really require a lot of certification process. And to be a black hat, you don't even need any certification process. You can just be a good reader and take some courses online, some books, some PDFs, and you arrive at it. And there are a lot of disadvantage that are attached to being a white hat, which you must. Sorry, to okay, there are a lot of disadvantages that are attached to be a black hat, which you must strictly be aware of it. Strictly be aware of it. There are a lot of laws, there are a lot of things you break on the internet that can land you in jail. And when I say jail, I mean jail forever. So let's go to important terminologies. So in our front we have assets, we have vulnerability, we have threats, we have exploits, we have risk. So asset is just a data. When you say assets, for me, data that are not supposed to be public, that are sensitive data that are not supposed to go out there into public, into social. They must be protected by all means. They must we must protect, must provide a perfect protections for them. So that is what we mean by asset. So what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is a weakness in any organization structure, be it through their network, their web app, their employee, anything that can actually creates a hole for attackers to come in and exploit it, is actually what we call vulnerability. And what is threat? So threat is definitely the way it sounds. So it's actually mounting a threat on an organization due to known vulnerability, and asking them, oh yo, if you actually I have this information about you. If you don't pay this ransom of amount of money into this also Bitcoin address, I'm going to release them to the public, and also all sort of malicious act like that. So, and also there are some, let me say, unwell programmed, or yes, unwell programmed, that can actually leave a threat. Because once an attacker identify a threat in an organization, they begin to use it against them, in order to force them to do the will of that attacker, of that malicious hacker. Exploit now. So exploit is actually the art of I don't want to use the word exploiting again, or let me say the art of taking use of the vulnerability in order to finish the penetration. So let me just put it in order to just finish the penetration. So when you say you exploit something, what does that mean to exploit? So you succeeded in breaking into a system, you succeeded in breaking into a network, succeeded in breaking into the computer as a whole, or the organization as a whole. And if you look at the risk now, so there are some or companies that they might find a vulnerability in their structure, and they keep risking it out, like, okay, let's risk this. It's not really good. It's really good to identify risk in an organization structure, be it on your network, be it on your server, be it on your web app, even mobile applications and desktop applications. The risk are something that you really need to pay attention to. Okay, what are we risking here? Okay, if we decide not to patch the input feed of this website, are we not risking ourselves to expose into SQL injections? So, and all those things really need to be placed in actual positions, because it can really cause a lot of issues into an organization. So look at that of Facebook of recently, that after their server went down from the internet, right from Facebook to WhatsApp, from WhatsApp to Instagram, is because they actually create a risk, and the risk actually affect them. So they didn't really take good care of the risk, and that is human vulnerability. So the network is not vulnerable, so it is human that is actually vulnerable. And human we are always the weakest point of a computer system, or in anywhere. So humans are always the weakest point. Let's just go ahead and move to this next slide. So now we are there. What is penetration testing? A penetration test is a subclass of ethical hacking. It comprises a set of methods and procedures that aim at testing, protecting, and organization security. The penetration tests prove helpful in finding vulnerabilities in an organization and check whether an attacker will be able to exploit them to gain unauthorized access to an asset. So I told you, asset is an data. That is actually what penetration testing actually does. Um, is actually a subclass of ethical hacking. It comprises of a set of methods and procedures that aim at testing and organization security. That is actually what we do specifically. To an organization is going to employ you who come. Can you help us to try all your best to hack into our network or hack into our organization structures, or maybe human exploits or computer-based exploits, or any kind of exploits? Can you just go ahead and hack into us, please? Then you just going to sit down with them and negotiate. Okay, if I do this is the amount of money I'm taking from you, and this is how long it's going to take, and so on, like that. So now we are in penetration testing methodology. So uh every thing always have its methodology. So penetration testing also involves its own methodologies too. So the first thing we have in our forefront is OSSTMM. That was Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual. And there is a manual that actually guide all these open source security testing of the thing, which you can actually look into it. Another we have is NIXT, and that is National Institute of Standards and Technology. There is an institute that creates standard and technology, which means that when you go under all these methodologies, they have ways, they have procedures in which you must follow in order to carry out or penetration testing. There we have open web application security projects. So all those ones do, they have their own. That, I think, that's actually mostly for when you are performing a web app penetration testing. Sorry about that. A web app penetration testing. It's also really important. Let's move to the next slide. So categories of penetration test. Yes, categories. So we, as we said, we have black hats, we have white hats, we have gray hats. So we have black box. Black box is actually when you need to stay anonymous on the internet, where you, or let me say, you need to stay anonymous to the organization that you are actually performing your penetration test, which means that you are expected to act like a bad guy completely. with if you are scanning their network, they don't want it to be loud. They didn't really want anything to be traced back to you, or probably the organization, the rest of the organization will suspect that someone just act maliciously, like pure maliciously. And they pay you, they employ you to do that, and you just have to do your job. So we have white box too. White box is actually when in the situation whereby um you just do your penetration testing, everybody will be aware, and you really need to keep along with the rules and everything. And they might even provide you with some informations like password, admin password, to just go ahead and see if you can do it, or even bring out something else more. And we have a gray box, that is the mixture of those, the whites and the black and the black box, as we talk about. So after we talk about black box is always another thing of 18, and white box is another of 18, and gray box another of 18. So depending on the organization wants and need and what they propose to the project, they might actually be like, okay, we want it to be black box, we are not giving you anything, any form of information, just go ahead and ask us anonymously. White box, okay, we want to give you some informations, and these are your limitations and all stuff, like that. So in black box, you don't always have your limitations, you go ahead and hack into anywhere, any part of the network. In gray box, gray box is organization cannot just ask you to go ahead and do gray box. Like gray box is a thing of a wheel. Like after seeing all those informations, then you hijack it, then sell it out. Alright, types of penetration test. We have network penetration test, we have web application penetration test, we have mobile application penetration test, social engineering penetration test, and we have physical penetration test. So this is another phase that is so important. So network is actually one of the most common penetration tests, which I find so interesting. I really love network. I love it network so much. So network penetration test, web application penetration test. That is also common. You see a lot of people that say, hey, I want to learn bug bounty. Oh, bug bounty is sweet. I love bug bounty. Bug bounty is that. And also we have mobile application penetration test. Mobile application penetration test is let me say, I don't have much of idea about that. So, lately I'm just trying to take a course on it, so to fit myself in, to be able to move along with the tide. So we have social engineering penetration test. So there is no how you want to even perform network penetration test and web app that you won't find yourself doing social engineering penetration test. Or social engineering is just like you are making use of our social life, like trying to disguise as if you're a good guy, and hang up with people and just be like, hey, can I be your friend? And I'm good, I'm there. And deep down, you're a wolf. You just pretend to them, and they fall into the victims, they open up their life into you, then you exploit it, you access the data you want to access, then you move out of it again. So that's what we do in social engineering prevention test. And physical prevention test is, if you have actually been into a lot of movies whereby you see hackers disguising as a delivery guy, walk up into a company and try to access their router, their racks, maybe their Cisco racks, and try to plug in some USB malicious USB drive to have a backdoor on the network. So physical penetration test is also possible. So they, as the penetration test, the company just really let me say, expect you to be good in all kind of aspects. Physical penetration tests can really be dangerous when you have to walk into a bank and plug in your malware. What if you are caught? Okay, that one is so that is why black art is not really a good thing. Let's move forward. So now we have report testing. Report testing is very very important, because with all these penetration testing of a thing, you need a report, and report is so is very very important. So let's structure of a penetration testing report. So there is always a structure for it, which are actually under the methodologies that we talk about. Depending on what you are doing, the requirement from an organization, you just need to tender them the methodologies, then you go ahead with the structure of your penetration test, how it's going to commence, okay, what are the do's and don'ts, what are the sensitive area, all sort of things like that. So uh how you perform everything, you need to be penning it down too. So this is now we want to report to the organization that, okay, during the phase of our penetration testing on this company, this is what we have found and this is where you are. So you need to just give them the structure of how you carry it out from A to Z. So the cover page, you need to create your own cover page. Probably you are already, let me say, a signed and verified company. You put your name and your logo, everything like that. We're still going to shoot that in when we enter into the course in full. I'm going to show you the format of how to prepare that, and you have to have table of contents too. Oh, sorry, I wrote that twice, I didn't see it's coming. Table of content too is so essential. You just have to have your table of content, everything plays and plays out. Okay, this is okay, so that anyone that wants to read your report will be able to just navigate through the table of contents, then go to the page and open what they want. Most of the CEOs are always busy people, you know. So CEOs sometimes they don't really want to know what is up. They don't want to read the whole report. They just want to know where we are having issues. Then they go to the table of content. They go to your tabular summary, your recommendations. They read it and they are gone. So it's important. So remediation report, that one too, it must be set in place. What are the remedies? What are the things that the company is supposed to see, supposed to know, supposed to set in place in order to this vulnerability assessment, your summary. So you need to actually tell them the vulnerability you actually found on the organization and how you the assessment of it, how it was expected. Put it in a chart, in diagram, the severity. Is it high? Is it low? Is it all sort of information is so important. And tabular summary, yes, that should always be a tabular summary where you summarize the whole thing of a thing. And risk assessment, say, okay, if we think that this is actually not a vulnerability but is a risk, because there's always a difference between a vulnerability and a risk. So this risk can actually do a lot of evil. If let's assess this risk together, so and you put them in a matrix form. So okay, if we leave this risk in the nearest future, this is what can befall us if an attacker gets known. These are is it does it worth it to spend the extra efforts to cover the risk, or we should just leave it? So that is where the assessment comes in. Then the recommendations, that you need a lot of recommendations for them. Another thing I skip is the report writing in is going to contain every information you need, but in some cases to the IT guys, now let me say to the server admin, you know, they are much more technical people and the CEO might not even be technical people, so you need to to actually put that in place, so that if the CEO is actually reading reports that is not technical, he or she will still be able to hold in and tap into one or two sensitive information without having to crack out knowledge or doing Google and dictionary digging before trying to understand your report. That is also essential too. And to the IT guys, you should be able to point to the area of expert, some codes, some algorithms that they wrote that actually give room for a vulnerability. And also there is this saying that developers and penetration testers are not always friends. You know, they make life difficult for a software engineer. Like, you think your project is perfect and someone just come in and hack it into it, then all you have to do is just to sit down, crack your head over again and think of how to patch it. It's actually a long way. It's actually a long way. It's not really, really easy. And it would be of a good if you can be a software engineer and a penetration tester at the same time. You know, like, as you're writing your code, you are putting security issues in place, and that is where I've seen a lot of developers out there. They just write a code, and once it's working, they don't care about what about the security part of it. They just go, like, just leave it like that. And that is why we have so many variable software now in the world. All right, let's move. Okay, we've come to the end of the introductory class. Very very brief introduction to penetration testing. And in the next video, we are going to be talking extensively about penetration testing. How you are going to set up your lab, how you are going to set up your Linux, maybe Parrot or Kali Linux. Before then, see you in the next video.